Okay, we're back. Vice Chairman Robb would like to make a statement before we get started.
Ken, I have a question, and we were talking outside, and I don't believe the season date is an issue. I believe the unit boundary is an issue that we need to get our hands around. And my question is, if we take a vote today on season date and table unit boundary until the next meeting, what does that do to the department, to our rigs going out and to everything? And if the rigs have to go out, that we put a stipulation in the rigs that says unit boundary is subject to change prior to the hunt, you need to check in. Or it will be addressed during mandatory indoctrination also.
I was just talking to Maureen, and she can elaborate. I don't think that there's a problem with putting it off till March. We try to provide information as soon as we can to Don so he can get his website up, be ready to go. But we can always put a caveat that the actual boundary, is subject to change. Do you see any real problem if we delay it a month?
Maureen Hellinger, Department of Wildlife. I do need a unit group description, but we do have that field that is the informational field that we can put in there that it is subject to change, because we have to provide something for them to choose on the website as part of the hunter choice as a unit group. But we have that other field that we can put that note in there saying this could be subject to change.
And with mandatory indoctrination, we're not going to miss anybody.
Right.
And I've made a request to sit down with a couple people that are on two total different sides, work on something that we can look at, include Mount Rose Meadows and some other areas of high use that the Tahoe Rim Trail does not address. It'll just be my suggestion back to the department, what the department does, but then the county advisory boards can look at it again. Washoe took no action at their county advisory board. I realize it's a state wildlife resource when we look at wildlife issues, but even when I look at wildlife issues statewide, I like the input of the local county advisory boards. I weigh that more than somebody across the state. And right now I see Carson says leave it the way it is. Douglas says go ahead and get it out of the Tahoe Rim Trail. And we had a no action out of Washoe. We just don't really have a clear direction until we get more definition.
And Chairman Macbeth directed us to provide in March, a complete overview of all the biological work, all the literature that we've been putting together. We also have already done the mapping, so we have those GIS images. I'll talk to Teresa whether or not we can actually put those up on our website so people could click on it and see what the alternatives might be, what it looks like, whether the closed areas are ready. So we can certainly accommodate that.
Okay. The obvious issue now is if we're going to do that, then would there be a problem in just tabling the entire issue? And are we going to have an issue if we don't do something on season dates right now, or any of the other issues that we've talked about today? Because it seems now that if we're going to take one thing off and defer it to March, would there be a problem in taking everything off?
Maureen, about the season dates, they are separate.
Maureen Hellinger, Department of Wildlife. The season dates, what we use for the tables for the application process is we need seasons, units, a special notice, those types of informations at this time. So, but if it's subject to change, we can put that in that special noticed field. But they need to know when they apply what it is that they're dealing with. So, but we can have a note there in the book, even because the book's going to go out for March 19th also. So, but it can be on there, and they can check the website later, because we're not going to reprint the book after the change is made. So, but we can have it posted next to that Hunter Choice on the online site and in the book.
And if we don't have any change, we would probably list last year's information with a caveat that subject to change. Is that how you'd go about that?
You noticed the seasons you noticed what you have in front of you. So this is what you have to deal with, because last year it was a 6351 hunt for both resident and non-resident. You split the hunts, which means that you're going to have a resident hunt with the potential of a resident separate quota and a non-resident hunt with its own separate quota, should you go forward with a quota in May. So I'm dealing with what you have noticed. You can't go back. It's not noticed for what was last year. So
Do you understand what you were saying? Okay, what will be actually published in the booklet and online when a hunter looks for bear hunt, if they take no action till and delay it till March?
if you do nothing with what was noticed today, I have nothing to publish. There's no hunt.
Okay, so let me ask this. If we did a vote solely on season dates, but not the other issues with regard to dogs and the other items that are potentially out there other than season date, would that be problematic?
Dogs are in permanent regulation.
That'd be a separate function.
You'd have to go through the permanent regulation change down the road. When you approved the application information last year for permanent, how they applied and all of that for the bonus points, there was the baiting section, there was the dog section, all of that is in permanent regulation.
So we're not going to...
Right, so what we were thinking is that the Bear Committee, there's some things that are permanently there, and that's what the Bear Committee will be looking at, those. These ephemeral things from year to year is what we're talking about now.
Okay. So bear isn't even on...
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, because that, we had a lot of discussion about it. So anyway, Commissioner Rain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I don't see why we put off till tomorrow what we can do today. These things have been actually hashed and rehashed, well, by the commission over the past couple of years, and people that weren't present, I'm sure they've at least read the minutes, if they haven't watched the video of what happened to those with those items. But I mean, the 192 and 194, that was hashed over again and again. You know, in the department, they came back with some very reasonable argument, which basically, as my recollection was, the Tahoe Basin is hunted on the California side, which is the vast majority of the basin. There's orders of magnitude more tags on that side of the basin than there is on the Nevada side. I mean, it's not even comparable numbers. It's orders of magnitude more. There are no issues. There have been no identified issues. So it's a non-issue. And that's what I believe the commission basically came up with before on the 192 and 194. So I don't see anything, I mean, you know, that has come up since between then and now that has changed that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner McNinch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll tell you, I've this is what, my 10th year doing this stuff, and I've never had to roll something around in my head so finely to figure out really where I stand on it. And I have to tell you, I do appreciate the discussion on establishing the seasons. It goes against what I've committed and, you know, my previous statements. But in the name of trying to find a pathway through the very narrow passages that I see everywhere, I appreciate the potential opportunity to have those discussions regarding the open units in a more thorough fashion. And if it would, to be quite frank, if it would take my vote to get to that point, I would support the season dates to open that door and move into that arena. I'll just be real frank about it.
Okay. Anybody else, any other comments? Mr. Howell.
Mr. Chairman, this has already been vetted many times, and the cabs that are directly affected in that area, doesn't really matter a whole lot to cabs down south or wherever, but up in that area, they've already voiced their opinion, and I think we should go ahead and vote on this, and I'd be ready to make a motion anytime you're ready.
Okay. Anybody else, any other comments? Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Drew.
Just one in response to the cab comment. I don't think the cabs have necessarily spoken in unified voice. I think they're all across the board. Douglas Cab essentially was in support of the proposed regulation. Carson Cab was in support of the regulation that was in place last year, and Washoe didn't take any action on the unit boundaries. So to say that they're somehow in unanimity here is, I think, a little bit misguided. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. So I'm looking for a motion. Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we support CR 1201 as written by the commission, with the exception of the open units language that says, except those portions of the Tahoe Basin west of the Tahoe Rim Trail which are closed to bear hunting. Strike that out.
Okay, and just clarification, you said the commission, but you meant the department, right?
Yeah.
Okay, put that clarification. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion with regard to the motion, understanding what the motion is? It sounds like it's to approve the department's recommendation minus the change to the hunt unit. Everybody understand the motion? Any further comments, questions? Okay, I will take a vote then. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. Okay, so where are we?
Better poll.
Okay, so the motion fails. I need another motion.
Okay, I'll take a stab at it. Like I said before, I appreciate the discussion. I would make a motion to approve resident 6151 and non-resident 6251 CR 12-01 2012 Black Bear season recommendations as proposed by the department, with the exception of the open unit, the not approving open units at this time.
Okay, and so the difference between your motion and the other motion is maybe just a clarification that we considered in March? Is that
Yes,
what I'm hearing?
that would be the intent.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so any questions on Commissioner Shrum?
Could you repeat the motion? Excuse me, I think we have
We've had a
technical problem.
request, every commissioner needs to be speaking into their mic. We have people that are having a hard time, and Commissioner Shrum, I mean, all the way up to it. Please? Thanks.
Could you repeat the motion, please?
Okay.
Before I do, the department had a concern I'd like to hear real quick.
We have a little technical issue.
In regards to the unit group description, what should I inform the public when they apply next to their hunter choice number?
Okay. Boy, I keep spouting off too early.
What do you-
I'm going to remove my motion in the name of making sure we got things clarified and cleaned up before we move forward.
Second, withdrawal as well.
Okay. So Maureen, help us out one more time.
What I need is a season. For my hunter choice number, I need the season, the unit group description, and it could be something simple. If you want to say until, to be determined at a later date, we can put that in there. It's just not a unit group description. We're going to get a lot of phone calls. And there's nothing to say that you can't put a unit group, and we have in the special notice field that this is subject to change. You may or may not change it. You may add something in. You may remove something down the road. But at least we've informed the public as to what's going through the minds of the commission and the department, and it's subject to change. But if we don't put something there, it's just going to create a lot more confusion than necessary. I'd rather have something with some explanation than nothing.
I'm prepared to make my motion.
Okay,
All right.
let's try it again.
I make a motion to approve the department's recommendations, CR 12-01, 2012 Black Bear season recommendations, as proposed, with the exception that under open units, it'd be designated as to be determined, subject to change.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And just point of clarification for us to be considering the hunt units in March.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any questions with regard to the motion? Any comments, discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, did you get that? And what was it? Okay, motion passes 5-3. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's see, what time is it?
Does that presentation start at noon sharp?
What's that?
Does the presentation that you're going to go to
I
at
don't,
noon sharp?
I think it's somewhat flexible. Commissioner Schrum, is the gentleman that's going to speak to the commission, is it going to be right at noon? Or is it somewhat flexible?
That's correct. That's correct, right at noon. He's coming in from St. George.
Okay.
He called me at 8 o'clock this morning, said he'd be here at noon.
I think, I know, since the next agenda item is our season setting, which is going to, I know, take some time, then why don't we go ahead and have Larry Johnson come on up and do
That's what's the motion for, right before lunch. Immediately for lunch.
so we'll break after lunch. Yeah.
That's outside.
What's the wind is doing?